IXL section S.18, standard form, find the X and the Y intercepts. Okay, this IXL is very simple, but very important and very useful. It comes out a lot in Algebra 1. Before I go over examples of what's on the IXL, let's take a moment to look at the X and the Y intercept, and I want to point out something to you. All right, I have three different examples here. All right, three different examples. And what I want you to see is this, all right? First of all, just a reminder. In this line, right, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. All right, so this is the y-intercept. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. In this one, the y-intercept is right here. And in this one, the y-intercept is right here. Okay, and the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. Okay, so here's the x-intercept. For this line, this is the x-intercept. And for the last one, this is the x-intercept. Okay, so what do I want to point out to you? What I want to point out is this. All right, so notice what I'm going to point out. When the y-intercept, look at the coordinates of the y-intercept. The x-coordinate is 0. The x-coordinate is 0. Over here, the y-intercept, look at the coordinates. The x is 0. And over here, the y-intercept, look at the coordinates. The x is 0. Okay? Always, for the y-intercept, the coordinate for x is always 0. That's always the case. Because the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. And wherever you put a dot on the y-axis, the x-coordinate will be 0. Wherever you put a dot on the y-axis, it doesn't matter where, the x-coordinate of that point will always be 0. So the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0. The y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0. The y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0. All right, now guess what? The x-intercept is the opposite. Let's look at it. Okay, the x-intercept, look at the y. Hey, what do you know? I think I found a little pattern. For the x-intercept, the y is always 0. For the x-intercept, the y-coordinate is 0. For the x-intercept, the y is 0. Why is that? Well, because the x-intercept is where does the line cross the x-axis. Wherever you put a dot on the x-axis, it doesn't matter where, the coordinate for y will always be 0. Wherever you put a dot on the x-axis, the coordinate for y will always be 0. All right, so here's the pattern in case you didn't notice it. For the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0. For the x-intercept, the y-coordinate is always 0. So whatever intercept you're looking for, you got to make the other letter 0. Whatever intercept you're looking for, you got to make the other letter equal to 0. I'll show you what I mean in a second, okay? But if I'm looking for the y-intercept, the x-coordinate has got to be 0. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, the y-coordinate has got to be 0. All right, so it's always the other letter. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, the other letter is y. I got to make the y 0. Again, I'll show you what I mean in 1 second, okay? Let me just repeat all that in Spanish as quickly as I can. Okay, en español. Okay, el x-intercept es donde la línea cruza el axis de x y el y-intercept es donde la línea cruza el axis de y. Ok, y lo que quiero que se den cuenta, porque esto es bien fácil y se sale mucho en la clase de álgebra, ok, especialmente en el examen que le dan para álgebra que necesitan pasar para graduar, sale mucho en ese examen porque yo lo he visto en años anteriores, ok. This comes out a lot on the end of course exam for Algebra 1, which I have no idea if you're taking it this year or not because of the coronavirus, but I know that you need to pass it to graduate. And questions about this come out, and it's actually super simple. All right, so this IXL is really important. Ok, así que Lo que se quiero que, bueno, lo que iba a decir es que el Y-Intercept es donde la línea cruza el axis de Y y el X-Intercept es donde la línea cruza el axis de X. Y lo que se quiero que se den cuenta es lo siguiente. El Y-Intercept, los coordinados del Y-Intercept siempre tienen un 0 para el coordinado de X. Así que el intercept de Y, X es igual a 0. Si miran aquí, el intercept de Y, X es igual a 0. Y aquí, el intercept de Y, X es igual a 0. La razón es, como el Y-intercept es donde la línea cruza el axis de Y, donde quiera que uno ponga un punto en el axis de Y, el coordinado de X siempre tiene que ser 0 en esta línea. Lo único que cambia es el coordinado de Y, dependiendo de dónde pongo el punto. Y lo mismo con el axis de X. ¿Ok? Para el intercept de X, el coordinado de Y siempre es 0. Aquí también, para el intercept de X, el coordinado de Y siempre es 0. Y aquí pueden ver también. Porque donde quiera que yo ponga un punto en el axis de X, el coordinado de Y siempre es 0. Así que en un momento les voy a enseñar los problemas que tienen. Y lo que quiero que se den cuenta es que si están buscando el intercept de X, Y tiene que ser 0. Y si estoy buscando el intercept de Y, X tiene que ser 0. Así que siempre la otra letra. Si busco el intercept de Y, el X tiene que ser 0. Y si busco el intercept de X, la Y tiene que ser 0. Eso es lo que quiero que se den cuenta. Okay, let's look at the problems that are on the IXL so you can see what I mean. All right, the first couple of problems are super simple, like always. All right, so it says find the y-intercept of the following equation. So as we just saw, the y-intercept will always have x equal to 0. So if this x is a 0, I'll say it again, the y-intercept will always have x equal to 0. So if this x equals 0, what's 0 times 8? 0. So what does y equal? That's my answer. Let me say it another way in case anybody's confused, all right? Another way to say this is this. The coordinates for the y-intercept are always going to have x equal to 0. So what does y have to be if x equals 0? All right, if I put a 0 right here, what is y going to equal in this equation? 0 times 8 is 0. So that vanishes, and y will equal 6. So the coordinates of the y-intercept are 0, 6. Therefore, the y-intercept is 6. Because the y-intercept is the coordinate that's right here when x equals 0. Again, in case anybody's like, huh? Another way of asking this is, if x equals 0, what is y in this equation? If x equals 0, what will y be in this equation? All right, if x equals 0, y will be 6. All right. Están preguntando para el intercept de y ya vimos que siempre el intercept de x es igual a 0. El coordinado de x va a ser 0. Así que si yo sustituyo el 0 donde está x, el problema dice 8 por 0 más y igual a 6. 0 cuando se multiplica por cualquier número te da 0. Así que esto lo puedo eliminar. Así que ¿qué valor tiene y? Y igual a 6. Y eso es la respuesta. Eso es el y-intercept de esta ecuación, 6. All right, let's look at another one. Now in this one, I got to find the x-intercept. So always when you're looking for the x-intercept is what is x when y equals 0? What is x? Remember, this is x and this is y. All right, so the x-intercept is basically asking you, what value does x have when y equals 0? So I'm going to substitute a 0 right here for y. 6 times 0 is 0. So this vanishes. Hey, what do you know? X equals 3. Because in this equation, when y equals 0, x equals 3. If I were to plot out that line on a graph, I promise you that the x-intercept would be at 3, 0. Trust me on that. Okay, so again, to find the x-intercept, all I'm doing is substituting a 0 for y and solving for x. To find the x-intercept, all I'm doing is substituting a 0 for y and solving for x. X equals 3. And to find the y-intercept, I do the opposite. To find the y-intercept, I substitute a 0 for x and solve for y. ¿Ok? Para encontrar el intercept de x, simplemente tengo que sustituir un 0 donde está y y resolver para x la ecuación. En este caso me da x es igual a 3, así que el x-intercept es 3. All right, next example. All right, so again, to find the y-intercept, make x equal to 0. Para encontrar el y-intercept, tengo que hacer x igual a 0. All right, so here we go. X equals 0. And I gotta solve for y. X es igual a 0 y tengo que resolver para y. A lot of these you could do in mental math. 0 times 4 is 0, so this cancels out. 0 por 4 es 0, así que esto se cancela. All right, now to solve this, hello. Y equals 9 divided by 9, so y equals 1. Easy peasy. All right, next one. To find the x-intercept, I gotta make y 0. Para encontrar el x-intercept, tengo que hacer y igual a 0. So 9x plus 0 equals negative 9. All right? Well, plus 0, I could just eliminate that. So 9x equals negative 9. That means that x equals negative 9 divided by 9. That means that x equals negative 1. So my x-intercept is negative 1. Okay, find the x-intercept. Again, here's my problem. If I want to find the x-intercept, I gotta make y, the other letter, equal to 0. Si quiero encontrar el intercept de x, tengo que hacer y, la otra letra, no x, pero la otra, igual a 0 y resolver para x. The 0, basically, I could just erase that. So 2x equals 8. So x equals 8 divided by 2. So x equals 4. If you're understanding this, I encourage you to do the IXL while I continue to do examples. All right, so you could use your time wisely. Si están entendiendo, deben estar haciendo el IXL si pueden, en lo que yo estoy explicando más ejemplos. All right, find the x-intercept. So again, to find the x-intercept, I'm going to make y equal to 0. Para encontrar el intercept de x, voy a hacer y igual a 0. So x is going to equal negative 6. This one, you could just do it mental math. Esta se puede hacer en la mente porque es tan fácil. All right, so find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, I got to make x equal to 0. It's always the other letter. If I'm looking for the y-intercept, I got to make the x equal to 0. Okay, siempre la otra letra. Así que si estoy buscando el intercept de y, tengo que sustituir un 0 para x y resolver la ecuación para y. Okay, so this cancels out. So I'm going to have negative 5y equals 0. Now, on this one, you got to remember that 0 divided by any number will always equal 0. This is an easy one to mess up. These questions are all simple, but this is one that it's very likely that a lot of you will mess up, okay? So again, 0 divided by any number equals 0. Let me say that better. 0 divided by any number except 0 will equal 0, all right? If you divide by 0, that's something else. That's a special situation. But 0 divided by any non-zero number will always equal 0, okay? 0 dividido por cualquier número que no sea 0 también, siempre te da 0. Si dividen por 0, eso es una situación especial que tiene una respuesta diferente, okay? Pero 0 dividido por cualquier número que no sea 0, siempre te tiene que dar 0. All right, so on this one, find the x-intercept. So if I'm looking for the x-intercept, that means I got to make y equal to 0. And on this one, I'm going to have to simplify fractions. All right, so this part cancels out because 0 times anything is 0. So now I got 16x equals 10. So x equals 10 over 16. I'm going to leave it as a fraction, and I'm going to simplify that fraction by dividing the top and the bottom by 2. So my final answer is going to be x equals 5/8, my simplified answer, okay? You could write it like this. Ok, aquí tuve que simplificar esta fracción dividiendo arriba y abajo por 2. Así que mi respuesta simplificado es 5/8. All right, so on this one, I'm looking for the y-intercept, so I gotta make x equal to 0. Estoy buscando el intercept de y, así que tengo que hacer el x igual a 0 y sustituir 0 por x y resolver para y. So y equals 16 divided by -2. So y is going to equal -8. Again, a lot of these you could do in mental math. So if you could do it mental math, I encourage you to do it mental math. Muchos de estos problemas se pueden hacer en la mente. Lo deben tratar de hacer lo más posible en la mente, porque muchos de los problemas son fáciles. La mayoría. Casi todo. Okay, here I got to find the x-intercept, so I got to make y equal to 0. It's always the other letter. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0. And if I'm looking for the y-intercept, I make x equal to 0. Okay, si estoy buscando el intercept de x, tengo que poner y igual a 0. Y si estoy buscando el intercept de y, tengo que hacer x igual a 0. En este, como estoy buscando el intercept de x, voy a sustituir un 0 para y y resolver para x. All right, so this is going to be 7x equals 10. So x is going to equal 10/7. And I cannot simplify that any further. So that is going to be my answer. 10/7. 10/7. All right, find the y-intercept of the following equation. So since I'm looking for the y-intercept, I'm going to make x equal to 0. I like to repeat things over and over again so that hopefully you'll remember it. All right. Estoy buscando el intercept de y, así que tengo que hacer x igual a 0 y resolver para y. So 0 times 5 is 0. So I get negative 18y equals 9. So y equals 9 divided by negative 18. I got to simplify that fraction by dividing the top and the bottom by 9. So my final simplified answer is negative 1/2. You should always put the negative sign either, I mean, the best place to put it is in the middle, but if you can't, you should put it on the top. Although I'm pretty sure for this, I'm not positive, but I believe IXL will accept it on either one for these types of questions. But the best place to put it is exactly in the middle, because the whole thing is negative. Okay, cuando simplifiqué esta fracción me da negativo 1/2. El mejor lugar para poner el signo negativo cuando tienen una fracción es en el medio o arriba. No se debe poner abajo, así no se escribe correctamente, pero estoy casi seguro que para este IXL, IXL lo va a aceptar si lo ponen arriba o abajo. No creo que va a hacer una diferencia, pero la manera correcta sería en el medio, y si eso no es posible, arriba. Pero la fracción entera es negativa o negativo. All right, so this one, find the x-intercept. So again, to find the x-intercept, I'm going to make y equal to 0. As you can see, all these problems are basically the same thing. That's how math usually is. So hopefully you're working on the IXL. Okay. So I substitute a 0 for y. So 3x is going to equal 12. So x is going to equal 12 divided by 3. So x is going to equal 4. All right, now when you get to the challenge zone, it's basically the same thing, except they're going to ask you for both the x as well as the y-intercepts. You do the exact same thing we've been doing, okay? Cuando llegan al final, es la misma cosa, la única diferencia es que le van a preguntar para los dos en cada pregunta. Le van a preguntar para el x-intercept y también para el y-intercept. Se hace de la misma forma. Ok, así que, so to find the X-Intercept, para encontrar el intercept de X, I'm going to make Y equal to 0. Voy a hacer Y igual a 0 and solve for X. Y resolver para X. Alright, so 10X is going to equal 5. So X equals 5 over 10. And X equals 1/2 when I simplify it. Cuando lo simplifico, X me da 1 sobre 2. And then to find the Y-intercept, para el intercept de Y, tengo que hacer X igual a 0. I'm going to make X equal to 0. And solve for Y. Y resolver para Y. So negative 9Y equals 5. So Y equals negative 5 divided by 9. Or negative 5 over 9. Negativo 5 sobre 9. Alright, next one. Okay, so to find the X-intercept first. Alright, so to find the X-intercept, I'm going to make Y equal to 0 and solve for X. Para encontrar el intercept de X, voy a hacer Y igual a 0 y resolver para X. So X equals 2 over 5, X es igual a 2 sobre 5. And for the Y-intercept, I'm going to make X equal to 0. Para el intercept de Y, voy a hacer X igual a 0. Y resolver para Y. Alright, so 3Y equals 2. So Y equals 2 over 3. Alright, moving on to the next one. To find the X-intercept. Hopefully you guys won't forget this. I'm telling you, it comes up a lot and it's super useful. And once you understand it, you're going to see like, wow, this is so easy. And yet, I don't know why, like a lot of Algebra 1 students either don't remember or maybe they don't bother, they don't care, but they seem to forget or not know how to do these problems. And it's so simple. Once you get it, it's all the same thing. Okay, so to find the X-intercept, I'm going to make Y equal to 0. Espero que se están dando cuenta de qué fácil es esto y qué fácil son estos problemas. Y le estoy diciendo que esto sale mucho. A la vez que lo entienden, se dan cuenta de qué fácil es todo esto. Alright, so X equals 14 over 4, but I gotta simplify that fraction. Tengo que simplificar esta fracción. I can divide the top and the bottom by 2, and I'll get 7 over 2, and that's my simplified answer. Divido arriba y abajo por 2 y mi respuesta simplificada sería 7 sobre 2. Whoops. Alright, and then the Y-intercept, I gotta make X equal to 0. Ok, así que voy a hacer X igual a 0. And solve for Y, resolver para Y. So 7Y equals 14. I mean, come on, mental math, you can see Y has to equal 2. All right, try to do as much as you can mentally when it's easy. That'll make you much stronger at math. All right, so the Y-intercept is 2. El intercept de Y es 2. We're almost done, a few more. All right, so the X-intercept. To find the X-intercept, I'm going to make Y equal to 0. So that means that 3x equals 3. So x equals 3 over 3, which equals 1. And the Y-intercept, I got to make x equal to 0. And if you make x equal to 0, the answer is right there. Y equals 3. Ok, a la vez que para el intercept de Y, cuando hago x igual a 0, ya ahí está mi respuesta. Y es igual a 3. Okay, so right here, to find the x-intercept. I'm going to make y equal to 0 and solve for x. Para encontrar el intercept de x, hago y igual a 0 y resuelvo para x. So 6x equals 7. So x equals 7 over 6. And let me do it over here. For the y-intercept, I'm going to make x equal to 0 and solve for y. So just like the previous one, once I do that, the answer is right there in front of me. A la vez que hago x igual a 0, ya ahí está mi intercept de y. Y es igual a 7. I believe there's like 3 more. All right, so the x, excuse me, the x-intercept. To find the x-intercept, I'm going to make y equal to 0. All right, this one is one that, I don't know, you might want to see, I don't know. But once I make, it's pretty simple though. If you got it, it's common sense. Okay, to find the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0. So I'm going to have 17x equals 0. And then remember that 0 divided by any number has to equal 0. All right, recuerden que 0 dividido, well, let me say that better. Again, 0 divided by any number that's not 0 has to equal 0. Ok, 0 dividido por cualquier número que no sea también 0, te tiene que dar 0. And the y-intercept you're going to see is the same thing. I'm also going to get 0. Para el y-intercept van a ver que también me va a dar 0. Ok, hago x igual a 0 y resuelvo para y. I make x equal to 0 and solve for y. So 6y equals 0. That means y equals 0 divided by 6. So therefore y equals 0. So both the x and the y-intercept is 0. What that means is that the line is going exactly through the middle, through the origin. All right? Because both the x and the y-intercept are 0. Ok, lo que esto quiere decir es que la línea está cruzando el axis de x y y aquí en el origen, porque el coordinado del x-intercept y del y-intercept es 0,0. Así que la línea está pasando por el centro del plano coordinado, por el origen, por 0,0. All right, so the x-intercept, I'm about to finish. I think there's one more example after this one. So again, in case anybody's logging in late to class, to find the x-intercept, you make y equal to 0 and solve for x. So to find the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0 and I gotta solve for x. So 0 times 6 is 0. So that vanishes. And I got 5x equals 15. So that means that x equals 15 divided by 5. So x equals 3. That's a 3. All right. And to find the y-intercept, I do the opposite. I make x equal to 0 and solve for y. So whatever intercept you're looking for, you got to make the other letter equal to 0. So if I'm looking for the y-intercept, I got to make x equal to 0. And then I solve for y. All right, so 0 times 5 is 0, so I could just get rid of that. So I got 6y equals 15, so that means that y equals 15 divided by 6. And that fraction could be simplified by dividing the top and the bottom by 3. And my final answer would be y equals 5 over 2. All right, and let's do one more. I believe this is the last one. All right, so to find the x-intercept, look, I could just tell because this is 0 that they're both going to be 0, but I'll go through them anyways. All right, so again, to find the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0 and solve for x. So if I make y equal to 0, I'm going to have 17x equals 0, because this canceled out. 0 times 18 is nothing, it's 0. So x equals 0 divided by 17. And again, 0 divided by any number that's not 0 is going to equal 0. And for the y-intercept, to find the y-intercept, I make x equal to 0 and solve for y. 0 times 17 is 0, so I could just get rid of that. And then 18y equals 0, so that means that y is going to equal 0 divided by 18. And once again, 0 divided by any number that's not 0 is going to equal 0. So here we have another example where the x and the y-intercept is the origin. Okay, aquí tenemos otro ejemplo donde el intercept de x y los dos son 0, así que están pasando por el origen del plano coordinado. Alright guys, so that's it for the examples for this IXL section S18. I think you should find it easy. I'm telling you, it is easy, but I highly encourage you to learn it because I taught Algebra 1 for years and it comes up on a lot of exams. And it definitely comes up on the Algebra 1 exam that you need to graduate. And these questions are simple, as you can see. If you just remember that to find the x-intercept, you make the y0, and to find the y-intercept, you make the x0. It's always the other letter that you make equal to 0. So if I'm looking for the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0. And if I'm looking for the y-intercept, I make x equal to 0. That's super easy to remember. All right, so if you remember that, these questions will always be a piece of cake. All right, remember the semester is ending soon, so make sure to do the IXL, and if you're gonna make up any work, to make it up soon. All right, because all your teachers need time to put in the grades. Okay, and also remember you got to get to 100 points. All right, guys, that concludes this lesson. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next class. Have a great day.